Welcome to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. Available to listen to on YouTube and Spotify. George, Simon and Sterling as your hosts. 7 different leagues. Enjoy the episode. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast, episode 33 today. And we are back with Simon and Sterling. How are we?
All good, thanks, mate. All good.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good to hear. Very good weekend of football and midweek football, which we'll get onto, which we had this week. For Brighton, it was a good start, which we won't talk about, but obviously a good win for Brighton. But in terms of the Premier League, there were some cracking games on Monday night, yesterday. A very close game between Brentford and Wolves. 2-2 it finished in the end, Sterling. Monday night kickoff, it didn't disappoint, 4 goals in it, but Wolves looked to sort of be finding their feet really, but just a bit too late in the season to have any hope of being safe of relegation, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely too little too late for them, but they were saying it on commentary and it's a good point that they want to go down with a bit of momentum and a bit of form to give them hope for coming straight back up, and they've got to be one of the favourites, if not the favourite, to get promoted next season from the Championship. They'll keep Rob Edwards, a few of those players will go. That Gomez in midfield, they've got a few, haven't they? Well, I can't remember what his first name is. Shao Gomez, I think it is.
Yeah, Gomez.
A few of those will go, but even that Armstrong that they brought in scored a nice goal yesterday. Unlucky to not get second. You know, he's going to be big for them in the Championship. And what I found crazy is that they're only 3 points off Burnley now. Burnley do have a game in hand on them, but they're still only 3 points off Burnley, which, I don't know, it seemed like Wolves. Well, they were dead. They've been dead for ages, but they're alive again, shall we say? And you know, it was only a few weeks ago talking about maybe they'll be taking the record off Derby for worst team in Prem history, but no, he's done a really good job, Rob Edwards, and I quite like him, so I was happy to see that. And it's a good result for the Albion as well yesterday, we were saying, weren't we, Dad?
Yeah, I mean, if they'd won that game, they would have got really close to Liverpool. They would have been 2 points off 5th place, which is nosebleed territory for Brentford. So it's a big opportunity for them, and it comes on the back of them losing other games at home as well, to Brighton, for example. So they definitely stalled at the moment. If they could get any type of European football, it would be the first in their history, so it would be a real game changer for them. But obviously, being that close to the Champions League places, they'd want to put themselves in that conversation. As for Wolves, like you say, they just want momentum going into the Championship because they must be favourites to win the Championship next season already, I should imagine. But it just goes to show you how positive man management can turn a team round, because he hasn't got any new players there. In actual fact, they sold their best player and Strand Larsen to Palace, didn't they?
Yeah.
So he's getting them to play for him, and you can't help but be impressed by it. I think at the time he said that he was crazy to leave Borough to go to Wolves, but I think he looked at it from an 18-month perspective and thought, I'm going to be coming back in the Prem with these, you know, not necessarily the same players, but much of the same group of players, and we would be, Championship winners, and we'd have the momentum behind us to make a go of it in the Prem. They were great goals, by the way, as well. All 4 goals were great goals.
Yeah, they were. And it'll give them confidence as well when they do come back up and say, well, look, they beat Liverpool, they've drawn to Brentford, who probably will get some sort of Europe. They drew to Arsenal as well, didn't they, at home in the last minute? So there you go. You know, they can compete, definitely. They'll be buzzing with that. And yeah, they were really good goals. I was quite impressed with that Armstrong as well, and the fella that come off the bench for Wolves, because it was pretty savage on the commentary. They were saying it's true that Armstrong's a bit of a Championship player, weren't they, Dad? But he actually took that goal really well.
Yeah, I mean, he played for Southampton in the Prem and didn't score any goals, but then goes down into the Championship and scores goals for fun for them. And I think he'll probably do the same next season for Wolves. It's an astute signing, really. He took his goal really well. I mean, you wouldn't think that he's not a Premier League goal scorer when you look at the goal that he scored. It was a fantastic effort.
Yeah, maybe he just needs the right manager, because I think, obviously, just on form and stuff, Rob Edwards doing really well, but I think he's doing and has done a really good job of how he's got them playing. They look much more compact and solid at the back, playing some nice football as well, got control of it in midfield, and then even like the goals they're scoring, as we said, are really good, don't you think, George?
Yeah, I was really impressed with that header from Coyote. I thought that was brilliant. That Orkadare goal just gets in front of man. Great header. That Adam Armstrong goal, really tidy finish from edge of the box, wasn't it? Sort of just gets it in his stride, doesn't he? And sorts it away brilliantly. I mean, I agree with you. I think if Wolves go down with the manager they've got and the quality of the side, depending on how many players they can keep, I mean, I agree with you. I reckon that João Gomez will go. I think he's a really good player. But when you've got players like Adam Armstrong that have got so much experience in the Championship and already got, you could say they've got a few Premier League proven players in there as well, that if they go down with this sort of momentum, I saw a stat actually, I think on the BBC, that they'd got 26 points from they got 26 games. They had 9 points, and the last eight, I think it is 8 or 9, they've got 8 points. So in nearly like a quarter of the space of time, they've got the same amount of points that they've got for basically, well, way over half the season, which I think just shows the positive impact that Rob Edwards has had. But as I said at the start of this segment, it's just come a little too late for them. I mean, Burnley, they're 3 points off of Burnley, but Burnley are basically cemented them in the bottom three themselves. So real depth for Brentford. Go on.
Yeah, just to say that form table as well.
Yeah,
From when Rob Edwards came in, they showed last night. I think they're 14th, and they're way outside the relegation, whatever it is, somewhere just below mid-table. So that speaks volumes. But just on Brentford as well, it plays into the Albion's hand, as I said, that result. And all those teams in that pack have got a chance of Europe, I think. Yeah, I've got here 6 points separate 14th and 7th. So they slipped up, and that's, I mean, I think a lot of teams will be licking their chops. The Albion have got some tough games, but I think all of those teams do. So I think anyone who can, form a bit of a run towards the end of the season will end up in Europe, really, because it's all to play for.
Exactly. All to play for, and be interesting to see, I think, how many European spots do actually come into play, because, you got the EFL Cup final, you got teams that could be winning the FA Cup, Arsenal, Champions League could win it. You've got so many different teams that could get in it this season, from maybe even ninth that get it, which is just mental because of how strong this league sort of is across Europe at the minute. I mean, it is really impressive to see. So we'll speak about one of the teams which I think are one of the best teams in the world at the minute, in Arsenal. 2-0 win against Everton. A big result, and it looked like absolute carnage when Gyökeres scored in the last minute. But then the moment for the youngster, Max Darwin, 16 years old, unbelievable. Just looked so comfortable when he was going through. I mean, I think, other players, even professionals, would have just, panicked in that situation and been like a Glenn Murray and just turned around when he was through on goal. But incredible composure, and obviously incredible moment for the club and him himself. I mean, that's put him 9 points clear now at the top, although City do have a game in hand. But City's point against West Ham, 2 points drops, means that Arsenal have gone even further clear at the top of the Premier League table. I mean, watching the game, Everton had so many chances, especially in the first couple of minutes. I think Njai should have put them ahead, if I can remember, but they just weren't clinical enough, and it looked like they would get a point, but Arsenal just found a way. You could say it's poor keeping from Pickford, but he kept you in the game for the whole game itself. Really, just one half mistake you could say, he goes for the ball, completely misses it, and then Hincapié just squares it across to Gyökeres just to tap it in. But do you think it's just in their hands now? Really, City dropping points, 9 points clear. You can only really see red ribbons on that Premier League title from now on, can't you?
Yeah, I think so. What do you reckon, Dad?
Yeah, it was a nervy win though for Arsenal. I mean, 88 minutes it was 0-0. So, and like you said, George, Everton had chances, especially in that first half. I think Dwight McNeil had an effort cleared off the line by Calafiore, and then he hit the post later on in the first half. So it wasn't as if they didn't have their chances. And we kept flicking over to see what was going on when the Liverpool game got too painful. But there was times when, sorry, not the Liverpool game, whatever game it was we were watching.
Chelsea.
But Chelsea, yeah, thank you. There was times when he looked really worried, Arteta, but they came through. He can't fault Pickford. He saved Everton so much over the years that I don't think you can fault him. But yeah, it does look like Arsenal's title to win now.
Yeah, and you're right, they do have really good. Well, you didn't say this, but my caveat to it is that they've got really good togetherness because you said, didn't you, about the celebrations? Everyone went running down the touchline after Dalman's goal and didn't even see the scenes for Gyökeres' goal, but I can imagine what it's like because you can feel really the sense of togetherness that Arteta's built and the squad's got, and even the fans. You know, they're all very unified on social media and in person whenever you speak to Arsenal fans. And even when we saw them at the Amex, they were really loud and you can hear what it means to them. You know, when that full time whistle went in the City game, there was probably the biggest roar of the night, actually. But yeah, it's definitely in their hands. I can't see a situation where they mess it up now, really. A few weeks ago, I was kind of saying, "Oh yeah, think they might." It's kind of toying with the idea when people were saying it to me, but in reality, I don't think they will. And I think after the Albion game, we were all quite critical of them, but really, Arsenal are incredible at what they do. And George, you said they're one of the best teams in the world. They are because regardless of what your standpoint is on football, I've got mine. I don't think they're one of the best footballing teams. Is how I like to look at it. You know, attractive football and the way I would like to see the game played and play myself. But for what they do, they're unbelievable. They don't give you many chances. They're solid in defence, and they got quality there. And you know they can be really good on the ball. I don't think they were at the Amex, but that's a completely different thing altogether. They're just so solid and just really hard to beat, and that does make a good football team ultimately. But yeah, I wanted to quickly mention Max Dalman, youngest Premier League goal scorer in history now. It's crazy, 16 years old. And George, I don't know if you remember, I think it was when Sai was away, big Sai. We are talking about, I think it was after that Mane scored for Wolves. We are talking
Yeah.
about who's the youngest Premier League goal scorer that in history. That was one of my quiz questions. Dad, do you know who it was before Max Dalman broke the record? Were you watching when you were in Australia? No. It was some bloke who we've never heard of, to be fair,
I
James
think,
Vaughan.
yeah, that was it. James Vaughan or Vaughan or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, Vaughan.
James
Spelled
Vaughan
like
used to
Vaughan.
play for Everton.
Yeah, you played for Everton, that's right.
Yeah.
But he broke his record, so there you go. Anyone that's been consistent with listening, there you go. It's come full circle there.
There you go. It's come the full circle round on episode 33. So if you have been watching him regularly, the questions returned for Simon since his return from Australia. But you wanted to speak about a really disappointing result for Liverpool, Simon. I mean, a Spurs side that looked, doom and gloom, but showed a glimmer of hope, but I think that was just because of the poor performance from a Liverpool point of view, don't you?
Yeah, it was a dreadful performance from Liverpool. I think it's widely seen by the supporters as the worst performance of the season, quite frankly, because you had a team in Spurs that had turned up after a disastrous Champions League game that were there to be taken, and Liverpool couldn't do it. It was obvious from the get-go that was what was going to happen, though, because I mean, I called it. I said that Liverpool were going to concede and Richarlison would score because it was just on the cards. He had chance after chance after chance. Some were straightforward, some were harder, but he's too good a player to give that much space and chances to for him not to score. But the fact of the matter is, he should have been scoring at best a consolation goal for Spurs because they should have been out of sight. And Slot, he got booed at full time, and quite rightly so, because you've got to win the game in front of you instead of worrying about what's going to happen in the Champions League on Wednesday night. And you can pick the team for tomorrow night for Liverpool because you know exactly who he's going to pick because he rested them on Sunday. And I think it was a mistake, frankly. I think you've got to put away, you got to start your players and take them off when you've put the game to bed, not try and do it with shadow players. Robertson didn't have a great game. He was partly at fault for the goal, I think, and it was just an underwhelming performance from everybody, apart from Szoboszlai, as usual, who was brilliant, and Engamara, who I think I read somebody had 6 successful dribbles, which is the most by any Liverpool player in this season. But yeah, I mean, the talk in Liverpool fan circles is that Slot could be ushered out the door after the Brighton game, which I fully expect Brighton to beat them, by the way.
Yeah, I bet Brighton to win that on Saturday as well. Funny thing about Engamara, Dad, he was incredible in that game, but then Slot took him off just as the game was opening up because it was all one-way traffic in the first half, and then even towards 60th, 70th minute, it was one-way traffic, and then Tottenham started to come into it, and it was like a basketball game in the end. And in the transitions, he would have had so much space to run into and so much free opportunities that he wasn't getting in the first half and early in the second half. So that was a bizarre one. I saw somebody say that on social media, but it was a really good point. So I think Slot got that wrong
I
there.
don't know
But
about that. I think he was cooked. I think he'd had, as long as he'd played, he hadn't started the game before then, and he played over an hour of high intensity football. I don't think he had much left to give, frankly. And it made sense to bring Salah on to sort of make the most of those spaces that you're talking about. So
and that's what I was going to say. The caveat to that is you've brought Salah on, who should be good enough doing that anyway, shouldn't he?
But a team that's got Vicario in goal and is struggling with confidence issues shouldn't be able to go to Anfield and come away with a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you were a betting man, Dad, you would have won quite a bit of money on Richarlison to score next and it end 1-0. Because we were saying, and it literally was one of the easiest things to call. It was like, it was plain clear as day, wasn't it? Plain and simple. Richarlison's going to score, it's going to end 1-1, or Spurs are going to somehow nick one.
But as I said to you, I'm not Nostradamus. In the press conference after the game, apparently one of the Liverpool-based journalists said to Slot, half the ground knew that Richarlison was going to score a goal in that game. Did you not see it coming? And Slot was like, how can you tell a player's going to score a goal? And he was like, half the crowd could see what was going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw George or yourself, Dad, either, but Szoboszlai came out and was quite critical, saying, we keep doing this, we can't let this keep happening, how have we drawn this game? It was really kind of berating the players, his teammates, not just them, himself as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he literally said that we'd be lucky to get Conference League at this point, which I thought was a real statement in itself. I mean, I completely agree with you both. You could hear on the TV Anfield were just screaming you could tell they were nervous and knew that it was going to come because Liverpool just kept giving the ball away constantly. Richarlison kept making chances. And the Spurs attack just looked like if they weren't going to score in that game, it's just down to them because Liverpool just gave them so many chances. And it was just just looked like Liverpool were collapsing every sort of minute. It was not a good watch. You can imagine for a Liverpool fan. I mean, not a good performance, and it's put them in the race for their race for the Champions League even tougher. Really, if they want to get in that top four, it'll probably get extended to a top five. So I don't know. It's a question of even if they can get in that top five at the minute, because the way they're performing, especially in that Spurs game, you really do have to question it, don't you? But we will have to wait and see if they perform in the Champions League tonight and see if they can perform at the Amex. But we will move on to the Championship, where we had some big turns and twists to all areas of the table, really. And it started with Leicester versus QPR Sterling. Leicester with another hit to their relegation sort of battle. QPR went away and won 3-1. First win in 4 games after 4 losses on the bounce. So it really was a crucial win for them. But the woes sort of continue for Leicester, don't they?
Yeah, it's crazy to even be saying that, Leicester in a relegation battle, but it's the reality. Just 2 points off safety now. And I don't like to see it, but I did really like to see this because Uckfield's finest, Harvey Vale, is absolutely tearing it up in the Championship. I love to see it. Really, really good. Scored the first goal. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's really nice. And then set up the second two as well. The second and the third. So, yeah, amazing from Harvey Vale. Just quality seeing somebody from Upfield, little old Upfield, doing so well. Obviously, he's long gone from Upfield, but we still follow him, and it's just so good to see somebody making so much of himself. And him and that Ronnie Edwards both on the score sheet, both 22 years of age. They look like they've got 2 brilliant youngsters on their hands there. And I think QPR, if they can just maybe add a few more players to that squad, I think they'll be in a good shout of playoffs next season, I think. And if they can keep Vale fit and actually keep him at the club, because he does seem now when he's getting more games that he's actually just growing into it even more. He was really highly rated at Chelsea, if you do remember. He was under 19s England captain when they won the European Championship. So yeah, they need to keep hold of him, and that Ronnie Edwards as well. He took that header really nicely after Vale crossed it in from corner. But I did want to mention that Harvey's actually switched to Republic of Ireland international allegiance. So he's got the hopes of a World Cup and hopes of getting picked for their upcoming playoff games. I'm not sure who they've got, Republic of Ireland, but yeah, he's made himself available for them, and I imagine he'll be getting picked. And Dad, you said it, didn't you? He wouldn't have, switched over and said that he's available for them if he didn't think he'd get picked.
I think that was the first. Excuse me. That was the first stage in him getting picked for the playoff against the Czech Republic, or Czechia as we have to call them now, apparently. But yeah, I was still fully expecting to play in those games. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to watch his progress from Chelsea, going up to Chelsea from Upfield every week to do training, and there he finds himself playing in the Championship week in, week out for QPR. I mean, they really needed that result, QPR, because they'd lost 4 games on the bounce before that game. I think conceded something like 13 goals. So I think they turned up at Leicester, and Leicester probably would have expected to have won that game, but they were really poor. And you've got to look at that Championship table and think to yourself, well, you can see a world where Leicester are going to end up playing in League One. only a few years after winning the FA Cup, playing in Europe and winning the Premier League. It's bonkers, the mismanagement. Absolutely bonkers. I mean, they're
They
2
went one
points
up
away.
in the game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're 2 points away from West Brom and Portsmouth. They got no momentum behind them whatsoever. I think they look doomed, personally.
Yeah, they always seem to start well in games, or not always, but by meaning of every single game. But a lot of the time when I'm watching them, or I see highlights, or I look at the games and the results, they start well in games, or they'll get a goal, or they'll be in the game, and then it just goes to potty. Like this, they could have been 2-0 up. They went 1-0 up, and then they lost 3-1. Take the Southampton game, for example. Do you know what I mean, George? It's very strange.
100%.
They've obviously got the quality, but just not the experience on man management to actually see a game out, it seems.
I can't imagine what their points are when they've gone 1-0 up. I mean,
from winning positions.
Points from winning positions. I can't imagine it's very good, because the amount of times you're seeing teams come from behind against Leicester is not really good enough, and part of the reason why they're in the situation they're in. I mean, it was James that scored a goal. It was an unreal finish into the bottom corner when I saw it, and I did see the highlights of this game, and Harvey Vale's goal was brilliant, and that Ronnie Edwards was at QPR before, but he got the move to Southampton, but failed to get enough game time, and he's returned in fine fashion, getting a goal on his return back to the club. But as you've both said, massive win for QPR in terms of their just momentum, really, in the running. They're not going to make the playoffs. I mean, 10 points. Stranger things have happened, but I very much doubt it. And then they're miles clear of the relegation zone, so it's just one of those ends to the season where they know they're safe, and they know they're not really going to have any shot of going up. So be interesting to see how Leicester get on for the rest of the season, because as you're both saying, I mean, they won the week before, but from the extended highlights which I watched, QPR looked a far better team in that game, and it just looked like the first 20, 25 minutes were the only time that Leicester started to play, and then after that, they just looked like a absolute mess, to be honest with you. I mean, didn't look like there was much, let's say, just connections on the pitch. Players didn't really look like they knew what they were doing. It just looked a shambles. So I have to see if that improves in the next couple of weeks. But I wanted to speak about Southampton getting a huge away win at Coventry, which Middlesbrough should have punished, but failed to after they drew in the last minute. Bristol City scored in the last minute against them to drop 2 points, really. Middlesbrough only gaining 1 point on them after Coventry were defeated by the Saints 2-1. And it was a real statement victory, in my opinion, that Southampton can go to the top of the table and beat them like that. And Coventry, they've been on really good form recently. They've had all their players come back from injury, and they've started to find the momentum again. But this has sort of put a dent in that momentum, and see if they can overcome it. But Southampton, on the other hand, cracking run of form. They're unbeaten since the 17th of Jan. Unbeaten in 12 games, 9 wins, 3 draws. Really, really, really good from Tom Derek's side. And it was Coventry's first loss in 7 games, 6 wins and a draw, their record. I mean, just showing how impressive it was from Southampton to go and get the win in this game. But in terms of the game, if you watch it, Coventry had the better chances. They had 6 big chances, 20 shots, 2.62 XG. They just weren't clinical enough in the game, and that was the difference, because Southampton had half the shots with less than half the shots with 8, and they took their chances. Good finishes by, I think it was Clint Downs and someone else. I can't remember who the other goal scorer was, but
Flynn Downs,
yeah, Flynn Downs, and I can't remember. Oh, it was the Japanese one. I can't remember to say his name, but anyway, yeah, something like that.
It was a good performance from Southampton. I was sort of watching it with half an eye on the goalkeeper, really, because we all suspect Carl Rushworth is going to be Brighton's number one next season. He didn't put a foot wrong. He was not at fault for either of the goals, and he was a reassuring presence for him at the back and made a good save. But the guy at the other end was interesting because he's on loan from Bayern Munich, and there's talk of Bayern bidding quite a substantial chunk of money for Bruggen. This guy looked like he was more than capable of playing at a high level. Peretz, he made a fantastic save to stop Kitching in the first half. He looked like it was a certain goal around the post, and he was great all the way through that game. So it was interesting to see the two goalkeepers and how they might impact on Albion's future, because
Yeah.
I can't see why Bayern are thinking of spending that sort of money when they've got this guy that obviously is surplus to requirements to the extent that they're sending him to the Championship to get a bit of experience, because he looked more than half decent, and it was reassuring to see Rushworth play so well. But yeah, it just, when I was watching it, I watched pretty much the whole game. You just can't help but look at this team like Southampton and think, you've got so many good players in that side, and not that different from the one that played in the Premier League. If Russell Martin hadn't been so ideologically welded to this idea of playing out from the back, could they have maybe have done a Leeds last season? Because they got decent players in that squad.
Yeah, and I think they proved us wrong as well with what we were saying when they sacked Will Still, because this manager's done really well. You said about the form there, George and Dad. You're right. They have got a good team and a good squad. So it was obviously the manager not getting the most out of them there, and the fact that they've changed managers clearly worked out for them. It was a massive result, and yeah, Middlesbrough kicking himself big time because. Well, so Millwall actually, because they didn't capitalise on it either much. So
Yeah.
all of them really, all of the top three fell short this weekend.
Yeah, and that's probably what sort of Coventry are thanking just the football gods that they didn't get punished in probably in the manner that they thought they probably should have expected. I mean, Middlesbrough 1-0 up in the 95th minute against Bristol City, conceded a cheap set piece, and Millwall losing as well, you know. Not the best for the teams around them, but Coventry will not mind that at all. I mean, not a great result, but Southampton, I think that's a real statement victory for them and puts them just outside the playoff places. I mean, can they get in?
Jackson are checking their shoulders now.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, well, the way they're playing Southampton, it doesn't seem like they're going to go anywhere else but the playoffs come the end of the season. But we'll see if they keep that momentum going, because it is a really impressive run for Tondereka and his side at Southampton. But Simon, you wanted to finally talk about Wrexham winning at home against Swansea, and this was a very, very good performance from Wrexham, you know, keeping themselves in them playoff places, and it was just looked like a comfortable win against a decent Swansea side. What did you think of it?
Yeah, well, I watched it. It was interesting because it was on Sky Sports, and they had the two co-chairmen, owners, Rob Mack and Ryan Reynolds, on comms with a guy from Sky that was trying to shepherd them, but it made you realise how much they got invested in the club, because they lived and breathed every kick of the game, and it was heartwarming in many respects to see how much they cared about it, because every time Swansea went close, they weren't being objective. They just stopped commentating, and they both, you could see their faces were just like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? No, 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 no. Things like that. And of course, when Wrexham scored, they were ecstatic. But as one of them said, because the guy from Sky was like, you seem to be really quite nervous at the moment. And he said, if you'd sunk as many £1 million into developing that stand behind that goal as we have, you'd be nervous as well.
That's
But yeah, it was a
brilliant.
good performance from Wrexham. I mean, Nathan Broadhead scored on the 25th minute, which sort of settled them down a little bit because they'd been a bit. Well, they've definitely been second best, and they, to be perfectly honest with you, I think they were second best for much of the game. They 66% to 33% in terms of possession for Swansea. Although they didn't really cut out many clear-cut chances, Swansea, but when they did, Okanoku was more than equal to stopping them. And I think Ryan Reynolds said on the commentary that the best signing they made, apart from Phil Parkinson, was Okanoku, because he's a good goalkeeper. He's a good shot stopper. He's good with his feet. He's more than capable of playing at a higher level. So yeah, disappointment for Swansea.
Yeah, he is a really good keeper. He had a few good saves against Nottingham Forest, didn't he, in the Cup? I think that put him into the spotlight. George, am I right by saying he was at City's academy? He was, wasn't he?
Arsenal.
We're talking about Arsenal's academy. Yeah, there you go. We were talking about that, weren't we, Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do really well, Wrexham. They just got to check their shoulders for Southampton now, as we said.
Yeah. Because they are on cracking form. I mean, Wrexham are on good form themselves, but not as good as Southampton, is it? I mean, in terms of the game, Nathan Broadhead's been brilliant for them this season, and as you were saying, Arthur Okonkwo, what a keeper they were. There's highlights on like reels that are being made on TikTok, and they're just on the commentary panicking like you were saying, and they're just saying how much the owners rate Arthur Okonkwo for what he's done, because I think he's been with them since League Two, if I'm correct. But yeah, to see his development and be a championship goalkeeper now, and probably to serve a spot in the Premier League at a lower side, the way he's performing at the minute, it's really impressive. But Wrexham, really impressed with them in the second half of the season. They've looked really impressive and sort of deserved their playoff place that they've got in the minute. But as you're saying, Sterling, and you probably think as well, Simon, they have to look over their shoulders now, because the run into the playoffs is going to be very competitive, because loads of teams are, 3 points off them. You got Derby and Southampton just 3 points off them. So anything can happen, really. If momentum could slip and teams could fly down the table, or momentum could hit in a positive way for teams like Swansea, for example. This would have been a hit to their playoff push. If they would have won this game, it would have, made their chances a lot higher of maybe sneaking in there. But they really do need to look out, don't they?
Yeah, what would worry me if I was a Wrexham fan or involved with Wrexham in Southampton is that they've got the experience of, winning the championship and navigating those playoffs and those last few games that are almost going to be like a playoff final in themselves to get in there. As you say, it's so tight. So I know they've come up the leagues, but different ball game in the championship. The quality is, as we can see, much higher, and as they know. So that would be the real worry for me, is just the experience that Southampton have got. Maybe they can navigate it better, but we'll have to see. I'm not counting Wrexham out by any means.
Nah, we'll have to wait and see. It'll be very competitive, and we'll have to see how it ends up. But we'll move on to League One football. And Sterling, you wanted to speak about a very competitive game near the playoff places between Reading and Plymouth, which ended in a 2-2 draw, but it looked like a cracker of a game, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and the atmosphere sounded great. I watched the highlights. Sounded really up for it, the Reading fans. Two good teams close in the table with each other. Plymouth in 10th now, only 2 points off Reading. 3 points off a playoff spot. But yeah, it could have gone either way. I don't think either team would be happy with a 2-2 necessarily. As I said, 2 points off Reading for Plymouth, 3 points off a playoff spot. So they'll not be happy. And Reading, it really is a missed opportunity because Huddersfield drew 0-0 to Port Vale. So they could have gone into the playoffs with a win. So that's why I say I don't think either team would be overly happy with this result, but I mean, for the neutral, good game. Atmosphere was really good, and just think an interesting one in terms of the layout of the next 8 games or however many it is, because it's just so tight, just much like a championship really, and the middle pack of the Premier League, and you can say it for all of the leagues actually. It's so competitive all throughout the pyramid, but yeah, I think probably Reading will be more annoyed out of the two. Don't you think, Dad? Because they actually could have gone into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they'll be kicking themselves. They had a good crowd there, 16,000. They just didn't put Plymouth away. I mean, Tom Cleverley got them reorganised at half time. I think they were much better in the second half. Plymouth, and they probably deserved to get a goal,
Yeah.
get back in it. But right at the end, I don't know if you saw on the highlights, they should have won it, Reading.
Yeah, they both had chances.
Kamari Doyle had a great chance, and then the keeper hadn't cleared it especially well. That was a fantastic save to have stopped it, and Lane drove the loose ball over. So they will be kicking themselves for sure about that. But he really has turned it around cleverly now at
Yeah.
Plymouth. And, it's another point for them. They're just sort of not convinced me that they're out of that push to get into the playoffs. So they have got 3 teams in front of them. They've got the momentum behind them. It'd be interesting to see what they do in terms of midweek games.
Yeah,
They're playing Stevenage tonight, for example. So you think if you've got any pretensions of getting into the playoffs, you're going to win that game.
Yeah. And it is only one win and one loss for, say, Reading, and they leapfrog them, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really competitive game, this, between two sides that are really going at it. And as you've both been saying, I don't think either side, but more so Reading, will not be happy with this point because, teams around them luckily didn't win apart from Stevenage, really. Everyone was dropping points like flies, which obviously is a massive benefit for Stevenage as, they've gone into the playoffs as a result of results as we record at the moment. But yeah, massive credit to Tom Cleverley, I think, and how he's sort of turned it around because fans wanted him sacked and gone out the window when they were in basically I think they were bottom of the league at some stage and in the relegation zone for the first 10, 15 odd games. But they've hit the form. They found that level of consistency, but they need to turn some of these draws like this game here into wins really if they want to be a playoff side come the end of the season. But another two sides which were battling for the playoffs at the moment was Wycombe versus Luton, and this game gave Luton a bit more of a chance to be on the playoffs come the end of the season. As I said, teams drew and lost around them, so very damaging result for Wycombe, but Luton would have been absolutely buzzing with this result. From the highlights, Wycombe looked to have had about 4 or 5 highlights from the first 20 minutes. They looked to pile on the pressure, and then a couple of minutes later, Kai Naismith scored from a set piece header. Just completely stopped Wycombe's momentum, I think, because from the highlights, they just looked like they're absolutely peppering them and somehow didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And then I think one of the weak points from Wycombe in this game was defending set pieces because then Casey Palmer, former Coventry player, went and scored another set piece. It was 2-0. 15 set piece goals now for Luton because when I saw the second goal flying, I was like, well, these look very well organised. Surely they've been doing these off of the training ground, and then you see they've scored 15 this season. It is a very impressive stat. The Arsenal of League One, you could call them. But, I mean, in terms of the game, I think Wycombe deserved a point, but that's just on them because they didn't put their chances away. 97th minute goal from Quintana gave them a glimmer of hope in the last couple of seconds, really, last couple of minutes, but wasn't enough time to snatch a late point. But Wickham now 3 points outside the playoffs without winning their last two. They lost to Bolton, as we spoke about the other week, and then Luton picked up their first win in three. So it's a big result for them and really crucial because they need a bit of momentum now. Use this as a real strive to be consistent and push for them playoff places come the end of the season. I mean, it's a question of for both of you if you think either of these sides can sneak their way into a playoff place come the end of the season because they're so close, but it's just so congested up there, isn't it?
They're too far away, personally. I think they're 5 points adrift. That was their first win in 6 games. It was an impressive result, but as you say, Wickham themselves are starting to slip because they got beat by Bolton in midweek last week and then losing that one. You got to think Luton have got too many teams in front of them. I think Plymouth in 10th are probably the only team. You can't go further down the table than that when you're thinking who can get into those places. And remember, you're really only talking about 2 places. Bolton and Bradford are a long way clear of Stevenage in 5th. You're not going to catch either of them. So it's really 5th down to 10th competing for 2 places, and it's just going to come down to form. All those teams, if you look at the form for all of those teams, they're all pretty ropey in terms of their form, apart from Plymouth, who are 4 wins out of 6. So it'll be interesting to see tonight. I mean, Plymouth are playing Huddersfield, I think, tonight. No, Lincoln are playing Huddersfield. But I was thinking of what game are we going to watch later. I know some Champions League games are pretty much done and dusted, and I don't really want to watch Arsenal. I might stick one of the League One games on because it's an interesting fight at the top there.
Yeah,
it
really.
is. I echo much of what you said, Dad. I don't think either of them will get in to the playoffs. Wickham I don't know so much about, but Luton, I think for the form reason, as you said, they can't really seem to muster up a run of form, and they've got, I think, a lot of quarrel going on between the fans and the owners. I think, or the owner more than anyone, but a lot of it is going at Jack Wilshere as well. So they've got problems in and amongst the fans in the back room, not just on the pitch with the form. So no, I don't see either of them getting in there, to be honest.
No, I don't either. I think it's just they're both too inconsistent, in my opinion. It begs. It's been a question asked among a lot of League One fans that who they think are going to get in the playoffs out of this sort of group near the top of the top stages of the playoff places. I mean, this result is damaging for Wickham, but it's put Luton back in with a chance. But I just think they're both too far off it. Well, not too far off it. I'm just thinking that they keep dropping points too consistently, and when you're doing that, you're going to fall right off it. And teams like Plymouth, as you said, Simon, 4 wins out of their last 6. That's a good run of form. That'll probably get you into a playoff place if you keep that sort of momentum up. Getting that sort of record in their last 6, it's going to get you give you a really good shout come the end of the season. But you wanted to speak about 2 teams that are in the playoff places at the moment. Lincoln versus Stockport looked like a really important win for Lincoln as they just hope and pray that Cardiff keep trying to drop points. I mean, this is a big result for them. Stockport are a good side, but didn't look like it from a Lincoln point of view. They brushed them aside, really, didn't they, Simon?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's quite as easy as that. I mean, they worked them hard, Stockport. They scored early on Lincoln and were coasting a little bit, and then Stockport sort of smashed them in the mouth on the 68th minute to get an equaliser. But what impressed me about it really was, that they've obviously got a lot of character in that squad. You could see that by the way they celebrated the second and third goals. But equally, that character to be able to sort of take what could be, could have sapped their confidence, that equaliser from Diamond after they were leading for better part of an hour. But they regrouped, got themselves organised, and and got a winner. Got the second goal on the 87th minute from Darikwa, and then Alfie Lloyd put the icing on the cake in the 94th minute. So it sort of showed really their resilience, Lincoln, and I think they are starting to differentiate themselves from Cardiff at the moment. They look really strong. As I say, unbeaten in 20, and I just rejoice in the fact that their fans are singing Tottenham away, LA, LA, LA.
You love that. You've not stopped singing it yourself.
I was the first person to call that. I was calling that 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, they do look like a really well-oiled team, to be honest. They play some nice football, and with Cardiff slipping up in midweek last week, it was 4 points extended too. So, yeah, they're looking quite not to say comfortable, but quite good at the moment for that title. I think in League One.
Yeah, it's looking likely, isn't it? 4 points clear, as you said, Sterling, after Cardiff slip up. Obviously, Cardiff got a very comfortable win away at Exeter, but Lincoln just don't seem to slip up. I mean, Stockport gave them a good game. I meant to say they didn't brush them aside, not they brushed them aside, which is my apologies. But I think it just shows that Stockport are a really competitive side and they gave them a good game. They drop outside of the playoffs because of this, but they've got a few games in hand on teams around them. So it's about how they can utilise them games in hand and see how many points they can collect from. I think it's 1 or 2. I think there's quite a 2 on most of the teams around them. So if they can get 6 points out of that, they can see themselves in a really good place, in the latter stages of the season, because they have been up there for most of the season, Stockport, and this result isn't really shocking because Lincoln have just been so good. As you said, Simon, unbeaten in 20 games. That is absolutely incredible run of form, and be interesting to see if they can continue it and go on to win the League One title, because that would be a really incredible story, wouldn't it? But we will move on to the League Two, and you wanted to speak about, Sterling, a resounding win for Cambridge, 5-0 against Gillingham, who have fallen off a cliff really in the league at League Two at the moment. But Cambridge are just finding another gear at the minute. 5 goals, 5-star performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've not got too much to say about it other than they eased to victory 5-0 versus Gillingham, who I don't think are a terrible side in this division. I think they've just slowly started slipping down the table because I think they were, well, they're sitting 16th now, but I think they were a bit further up the table, if I'm not mistaken, a bit earlier on in the season. But the importance of it is that they've gone 4 points clear of Notts County now after they lost to Chesterfield. So kind of cues you in for what you wanted to speak about, George, which is the Notts County game, but makes a big difference for Cambridge now being 4 points clear of Notts County with the third automatic position. So yeah, they'll be buzzing with not only a 5-0 win, but Chesterfield really did them a favour.
Yeah, exactly. It was a massive result for Chesterfield in this game, which has really affected Notts County. I mean, in terms of Cambridge, what a performance. I mean, they keep finding another stride, really, and go from levels to another level, really. It's incredible to see that their rise at the table is continuing. In terms of the game I wanted to speak about, it was an incredible game. I mean, one of the most important talking points from it, and went global on social media, was Oliver Norburn's red card. I mean, it was a really good goal by Dobra for Chesterfield, really good finish, and then literally a minute after, Norburn's red was a second yellow because he threw Dobra's shoe off the pitch. Dobra's shoe fell off, and Norburn's gone over and chucked it off the pitch, and he's gone and got a second yellow and been sent off. I mean, he must have been. I mean, it's stupid, but he's clearly rattled to do something as stupid as that and put your side down to 10 men. But in terms of how Notts County did down to 10 men, made it 2-2 at half time. The late goal, equaliser just before half time, made it sort of competitive going into the second half. But then Chesterfield scored, I think, in the 60 odd minute, and it was a great header by Liam Manville. Sealed it just after the hour. Now it moves Chesterfield inside of the playoffs by 3 points, but teams around them have a game in hand on, and so it just really is the fact of how much they've got to look over their shoulder at the minute, because their consistency isn't great. They're very inconsistent. 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses in their last 5. I don't think that's consistent enough if you want to be in the playoffs come the end of the season. But in terms of Notts County, as you said, Sterling, as you clued me in nicely, 4 points off the automatic spots now, because all 3 of NK Dons, Cambridge and Bromley won this weekend, which would have been a real kick up the backside, don't you think, Simon?
Yeah, I think like you're saying, that it's very congested up there. It's really about who can put that run together. But they Notts County losing to Chesterfield really does sort of give Cambridge that impetus to sort of cement one of those top 3 places. It's really odd, isn't it? You get 3 teams coming up from this division straight away, but it makes it interesting because the game I wanted to talk about was Walsall, because they had a great result against Crewe, and it sort of rescued their season really, because it just sort of keeps them within touching distance of those 4 playoff places. It was pleasing to see Darren Byfield take over. They played a few games for Walsall, I think. But it's pleasing to see him take over. He's obviously a breath of fresh air. Good 3-0 win away from home against Crewe Alexandra, who were sort of 3 points in front of them, but they're level pegging with them now. So I think they just about got enough to get themselves back into that playoff position, because as we've talked about, they were in the top 3 places for a long time before they started sliding down. So hopefully we can turn things around.
Yeah, it's just been that middle portion of the season for them, hasn't it, George? It's just absolutely killed them. But 3 points off it now, they're still definitely in with a chance.
They're in with a shout, 100%. They sacked Adam Sandler because I think they would have got deja vu of last season. They saw it coming. It wasn't the title. It wasn't the title this season. It was the playoffs this season with Adam Sandler. And as you said, Sterling, they dropped off a cliff. Really, they were top of the league, and they've dropped off a cliff again. But they thought this time, let's change their manager up and sack him just before the end of the season. And Darren Byfield's made a good start, good resounding win against a hard Crewe side to beat. I spoke about them a few times for the quality of players they've got, and they're near the playoff places themselves. So this is the reason why I speak about Crewe a lot, because they are a very good side. Adam Adoma still scoring the goals, legend himself, bracing an assist in the game. Always loved him, even when I was younger, as a in the Championship when he was playing for Aston Villa, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's a really good player, and obviously at 38 years old, he's still doing the business for them. So massive credit to him. But I think fresh air is what Walsall needed, in my opinion, because I think with Adam Sandler, you could tell the fans weren't happy with him, and it just seemed a bit toxic there, because they knew sort of what was going to happen because of what happened last season. They were like, "Oh, it's just going to happen again, isn't it?" Which I think was why I saw on social media and on Twitter that Walsall fans were happy that he left, not because of how he was good for the club. He brought good memories, playoffs, but at the end of the day, he just didn't really have that. You could say final product as a manager. Didn't get the crucial results that they needed. They bottled the automatics on the last day last season, and with him in charge probably until the end of the season, I doubt they would have got into the playoffs. So I think it was the right decision to get rid of him, and it clearly has started off well, hasn't it? So we'll have to wait and see with these playoff places and the automatic spots, because it just keeps having twists and turns to it, doesn't it, every single week? So we will keep a close eye out on it, and we will report back on this league in the next episode. But we will move on to the National League. And Sterling, you wanted to speak about Woking getting a really big win away at fellow relegation battling side Brackley, 4-1 win. And it's made Woking go unbeaten in 4, so a really good run of form for them, hasn't it been?
Yeah, I think Woking fans will be fuming with you saying fellow relegation battle, because they're actually doing all right now. They're moving up the table. I think they're 14th, maybe a little bit higher. They're well safe now, but yeah, it was looking a little bit bleak from a
It
few
was looking
few
shaky,
weeks
but not
ago.
anymore.
Yeah, so I'll let you off for that. But yeah, Brackley, they're struggling, only 2 points off going into the relegation zone, and they had a few good periods of the game, but it was really just they lack quality going forward, I think, in the final third and at the back as well. And Woking punished them, and Woking played really well, played some nice football. Ollie Sanderson got 2 goals, and he's got 5 goals in his last 4 games. And Joe Gabode scored an incredible goal. If you've not seen it, go check it out. It was really good. Nice turn in the middle, beat a few players, and then just smashed it in. It was really, really good. But Woking are a very interesting team, actually, and one that I keep tabs on because I've got a friend who goes home and away. But I think that I'll keep tabs on because it's an interesting National League side. They've not been able to push on, and they subsequently sacked their manager from, as we spoke about the other week, not having the season that they thought they might with the FA Trophy. And there's a few things going on there. I found out that they were really going at each other. I think the director of football, could be wrong with that, but I think he's director of football, but person of influence in the back room, and the fans literally face to face, not like squaring
Yeah.
up to each other, but he'd come down after that loss in the what was it, semi-final to Marine in the FA Trophy, and they were saying like, what's going on? And there's been real tension there. But since um, the bloke, I can't remember his name, got sacked, their old manager, they've had interim coaching staff take over, Craig Ross, Jake Hyde and Dale Gorman. They've done really well, and they're unbeaten in 4, and I think because of that, things have sort of quieted down a bit, quietened down, but still some tension going on there, and regardless of that, some good performances on the pitch. You know, this was a good result for Bratley, not a good side, but they did pick up two all draws with Boston and Boreham Wood as well. So I think things are looking up with Woking, but as I said, definitely worth keeping an eye on because it seems to be some friction that's just sort of starting to present itself, shall we say.
I think that Ollie Sanderson makes a difference for Woking. He, as you say, he's been scoring 4 goals in 5 games, I think it is. And he looks, I mean, he's on loan from Fulham. He looks like a quality player that's playing well below the level that he should be at. I think I'm right in saying a couple of years ago, or maybe even last season, he was on loan at Bradford, and Fulham pulled him out of there because they weren't playing him, despite the fact that every time they played him, he was scoring goals. And they just terminated the loan in the end, Fulham, I think, because they were frustrated with the opportunities he's getting. So I think he could definitely play a level above this. And Brackley, you know, you look at the attendance of that game, it was barely 800 people. And I think, George, you saw more people than that at Fulham, at Lewes, didn't you? So
Yeah, 300
they
more.
can't. As we said about this National League, you can't compete against the professional clubs. But I think there's a level of club below that that are good setups that have been established National League teams for a while, like Woking, that are going to attract players from Fulham, from the likes of Fulham, to play. And Brackley have got no chance against that sort of quality, I'm afraid. They'll be lucky.
They've got some good players, Woking. As you say, Dad, about Ollie Saunders, I didn't even know he was on loan from Fulham, but he does look a good player. They even had Jake Forster-Caskey coming off the bench. I mean, he's playing in the Championship for Brighton. about a decade ago now, but it's still quality player to come off the bench at that level, regardless of how old he is.
Yeah, 100%. And you got Harry Beautyman as well. He's playing League Two last year. That Yaskalainen goal, I've heard good things about. But yeah, massive result for Woking, and they've just sort of stirred their way away from the relegation zone and find themselves near a mid-table spot now. So credit to them. But Bratley, you're getting 800 people in the National League. You're not going to survive. I've got to be honest. I mean, I saw nearly 1,200 at the Lewes game, and that's two steps below. And it was a really good atmosphere there. And Bratley without a winning 5 games, so does that home support and the support they have in general have a big factor on them? I would probably think so, because you're having teams like Forest Green, Carlisle, Rochdale, York in this league that are bringing 5,000 plus sometimes at home, and away from home you're having probably 800 people themselves going to games. So I mean, having that low of an attendance, I think, will have a big factor on the way in which they perform, to be honest. But we'll have to wait and see with Bratley if they stay up. I mean, he'll be close because they are just 2 points above the relegation zone, but Morecambe are playing well at the minute with the new manager, so it'd be interesting to see. But Simon, you wanted to speak about Southend beating Forest Green at home, which is a real playoff battling game in terms of where both of these sides are in the table, but Southend got the upper hand in the end, didn't they?
Yeah, they didn't look like they were in serious trouble all the way through the game, to be perfectly honest with you. And just to sort of go back to Brackley, Southend's attendance for that game was 8,000.
There you go.
So you can see what you're competing against. You're competing against, you get 800 punters coming through the door against 8,000. You've got no chance, really, have you?
No.
I mean, they are in that mini league below. They're in that mini league below Rochdale, York, Carlisle, and to a certain extent Boreham Wood, I think, that are competing for the final places. But as we get into this final straight, it really is, I think, one from three. I think it's Halifax, Southend, and Hartlepool that are competing for that final place that Halifax are in at the moment. Forest Green's form has been choppy up and down. They've drawn too many games, but they were never in this game. Never competitive. They conceded early, and then they conceded halfway through the second half as well to sort of cement their sort of mediocre form.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's going to be one of those three, because you look what Wealdstone are 6 points adrift of even Hartlepool there. So yeah, you would expect Southend to be in that playoff place in terms of stature of the club. I know
Yeah.
that Hartlepool. Well, I think anyway they were a league club, weren't they? Traditionally, Dad Hartlepool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They had what Jeff Stenning, that's his club, isn't it?
yeah,
On they used to do Soccer Saturday, but yeah, Southend are a big club, and that shows 8,000 at Rootsall. What a ground! We loved it there. Yeah, I'd expect them to be in it, to be honest, and the fact that they beat Forest Green, who were doing so well at the start of the season, and still doing okay, is a statement in itself.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just an inconsistency that has come into factor for Forest Green, and that's how they've sort of just dragged their way out of a title race, which they're in the mid stage of the season, but they just haven't been able to keep up that consistency. In terms of Southend, I think that's a really big result because they had 3 draws on the bounce, really, and you're not going to get in the playoffs if you're drawing games. You need to win. I mean, it sounds like Michael Owen, but you do need to win as many games as possible, because you look down the table, you've got so many teams that are winning. Winning this week, I mean, Tamworth, Woking, as you were saying, Wealdstone, Hartlepool, just flocking down. You look at teams and they're all green, and then obviously the usuals at the bottom are getting the losses, but massive result for Southend. I mean, in their push for the playoffs to beat Halifax, who I wanted to speak about now. It's a team that we really haven't spoken about. I generally think this might be the first time, if not one of the one of the first times of three that we've spoken about them for a while. They've found themselves into a playoff place. And that is a real surprise for me because it's sort of come out of nowhere that they've found themselves in these places. Sounds to the game, Josh Hammoney, who scored his 11th goal of the season, as well as 5 assists from Cam. So he's a very good player from the looks of it, from the highlights which I watched. Smith scored the second, and then the winner was Owen Bray off the bench, 86th minute, 23 years old Irish, picks it up on the counter attack halfway line, and then drives the ball all the way into the penalty area, and then inside of the box, just low driven shot into the bottom corner to seal the win against Boreham Wood. I mean, Boreham Wood have the usual goal scorers, really. They've got Abdul Malik, but they've also got Zach Brunt and Lewis Richardson. Brunt's got 13 goals and 10 assists this season. Richardson's got 10 goals, 4 assists. So I think their attack, just in general, Bournemouth's a real threat, and he's been absolutely lethal this season for them. But Halifax now unbeaten in 4, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 wins on the bounce after they beat Hartlepool away last week, which is a really big result. On top of this one as well against Boreham Wood, inside the playoff by just the point, with teams around them with games in hand. But I think they're still in a good position as it is. Really, they're definitely in contention. I mean, teams around them are, traditionally are league clubs and are, have a bigger stature than them, but in terms of Boreham Wood, they're just safely inside the playoffs, and I think you've said it a few times, Simon. Their aim would just be to try finish above Carlisle by the end of the season, so then they don't have to go into the playoff eliminator game and just go straight into the semi-finals because they don't want to be playing an extra match, do they? But it's come out of nowhere with Halifax. I mean, you were just saying it then. I don't know if they do make the playoffs because I just think the teams behind them have a bit more experience in them than them, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
It really is up in the air between those three, I think. It's going to be one from those three. It's just about
Yeah,
momentum.
Yeah, I do think so, though, and I completely agree. They've come out of nowhere. Just looking at this and listening to you there, it's crazy, but they seem like they've got some good players. That Josh Hamney, potentially a standout, but I don't really know anything about them. But
uh,
this result has really, so to speak, put them on the map because Boreham would have been a good side all season. So yeah, really good, and they need to, if they are going to get in those playoffs by the end of it, they need to pick up results like this. So they'll take a lot of confidence from that.
100%. Yeah, they'll take a lot of confidence from this, and I agree with you. They've sort of just sprung out of nowhere and found themselves in a playoff spot because, they've been picking up a few good results, but this was a real standout for me and has sort of caught my attention, and that's why I wanted to speak about it. And they find themselves in a playoff place, so fair play to them. We'll keep an eye out on if they do stay in them places come the end of the season. But move on to the National League South, and Sterling, you wanted to speak about Dorking coming from behind to beat Ebbsfleet at home 3-1 to keep themselves at the top of the National League South table. What did you think of it?
Yeah, good result for them. They had a run of 3 games without a win, so it was important that they got back on the winning trail. And as you say, 1-0 down, ended up winning 3-1, so good result in the end. Found it funny that Brennan Camp scored again. He always seems to be on the score sheet. He's got
Goal
6
machine.
goals this season now, yeah, from he's played centre half, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Or
centre half.
left side of the back three usually. Crazy. Maybe right side, I don't even know. But yeah, it's from a defender. 6 goals, really, really good. And they've got, actually, I was looking, 7 players with 5+ goals talking. So no surprise there that they're right up the top just with that. It's got players all over the pitch with quality that are scoring goals. But again, it links in with what you want to speak about, George, because Hornchurch slipped up and drew to Bath, didn't they? So they went 5 points clear of Hornchurch, and Worthing did win on the weekend, but they slipped up in midweek. So, they're pulling away from Worthing almost every single game now. So it really does seem like theirs to lose after, that Bath game. Bath, but Hornchurch game that you want to speak about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, great result for Dorking, obviously, but they'll be even more, happy that they've won this game because of Hornchurch's slip up against the Bath side that are in the relegation zone and fighting for relegation. Henry Sandak with a brace for Hornchurch, put him 2-0 up. He's got 10 goals in all comps for them this season. Second one was unbelievable. Got on the swivel and then got on the turn, then sort of swiveled, top bins. It was absolutely brilliant finish. But then Scott Wilson got one back just before the hour mark, just basically a tap in, and then that Sandat got sent off. He got sent off literally after getting a brace, gets himself sent off. I think he kicked out at someone off the top of my head. He went down injured, and then it was a classic Joel Veltman with Saka trying to lift them up and trying to get on with it, and then he weren't happy with that, and then he kicks out. Hornchurch down to 10 men. He put a real dent on his performance because 5 minutes later, got the equaliser with Jack Batten. Unbelievable assist! I couldn't believe my eyes when I was watching it. I thought it was Gareth Bale and I thought it was Gareth Bale in the Champions League final, mate. It was it was the captain Parsley. Literally, the ball gets headed away from a set piece. The bloke literally goes for a bicycle kick and he puts it in a great area for this Jack Batten and he heads it into the back of the net, and it looked like absolute scenes because I don't think the Bath fans could possibly believe what they've just seen. It was a bicycle kick assist from the captain as well, which would have added a bit of spice onto the limbs that happened for the equaliser, which is a really big point for them. They are fighting, but they would have been disappointed. You can imagine that they didn't go on to win the game with 15 minutes to go and Hornchurch being down to 10 men. But point keeps Bath in the relegation zone, but still 4 points inside of them. So not in a great position, but they do have games in hand on people and a lot of games in hand. 4 games in hand on teams like Eastbourne Borough, for example. So it's just about how they can execute them games in hand to effect. Really, they've got 12 possible points to get away from the drop zone and take them out of that contention. But the run of form continues, which I spoke about last week when they lost 7-1 to Chelmsford, still without a win since that Worthing win, without a win in 9. So not very good run of form, but this result was a very good point, to be fair, and might be something that can help kickspark a run of form. But Hornchurch now just 1 win in their last 3, too inconsistent if they want to become league champions, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they got no chance of catching Dorking unless they can start stringing some results together. I was talk briefly about Eastbourne Borough because I think that defeat to Maidenhead is probably done them now. They've only got 7 games left in the season, and they're 6 points adrift of Farnborough. They're averaging less than a point a game, so you think they're done. So it'd be a shock to see them playing at a step below that, because I can't remember the last time they were playing down in the Isthmian Prem, if that's where they're going to end up. But
yeah, well,
Liam Dalston got the winner for Maidenhead a couple of minutes from time, and they played much of the second half with only 10 men, Eastbourne.
Yeah.
But if you watch the highlights, the ball breaks into midfield and Freddie Clark gets a hospital pass from someone in midfield and he's running backwards. The attacker goes around him. He goes to play the ball, misses it and catches him. He knows he's caught him. He almost sends himself off with his reaction, really. But yeah, it's a real shock because at one stage they looked like they were going to start to put a little run together, didn't they, Eastbourne Borough? They had a couple of decent results, but they've just been getting tonked ever since that little blip in form. So, Yeah, they're done. They're toast.
I think from what I just googled, they've been in the National League South since 0809 or maybe
Meant.
09-10. Yeah, 0809. Or they spent one season in the Conference Premier, which I think is now the Isthmian. So it would have
Yeah.
been 09-010. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Conference
They've been.
Premier is the National League.
Oh, is that
That's,
what it used to be?
yeah.
Yeah,
So there you go. They went up for one season and come down, but
yeah,
09-010 they've been in National League South. So it'd be crazy, but at least we can go out and watch them play Lewes. That'll be good.
yeah.
That'll be a big game. That'll be a really big game. I mean, it would be so weird to see Eastbourne Borough in the Isthmian Prem, but I think that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I mean, all the drama around the manager that's come in. Apparently, he's absolutely useless. I mean, he hasn't started off well, so you can see why fans have been saying that. And they're 6 points adrift, and all teams around them have at least 2 games in hand on them. So, it's really, really bad for them, and it doesn't look like they're going to be improving. Brady Carter, that got sent off, is probably one of their best players. So having him out with injury, with a red card, 3 match suspension, it's not going to help. Not going to help their relegation push, because results like this are happen to consistently. Sorry. And Maidenhead, punished the red card. Good result for them to keep them inside of the playoffs, which is so compact up there in the playoff places. So yeah, absolutely. I'm actually devastated to see Borough go down, because you see them in the National League South. They're an established National League South side. So to see them in the Isthmian Prem, which I can only imagine they go to, will be very strange to see. Be similar to sort of like a Leicester going down to League One, in terms of non-league. But we'll have to wait
Especially
and
after the
see.
season they had last year, it could have been
Yeah,
a National League side.
exactly. And you go from being having the chance to be a National League side to being bound to be in the league below in the Isthmian Prem, which is the league we will move on to. Nice little cue there. But the Baller League returned yesterday. We're recording this on a Tuesday, and I wanted to speak about it. I watched the whole night really, and I picked out 3 players which I was impressed with. Camilo Restrepo got a hat trick, got a brace for SDS, and got a man of the match. He's playing for Wingate and Finchley. Danny Bassett, Lewis striker, got the first goal of the whole season really. So that's always a good memory to have. And then Whitehawks winger J. Emmanuel Thomas, who scored an absolute screamer at Aveley away. 2 goals, 2 assists, man of the match, and he got the player of the whole night, MVP. Unbelievable, and I think it just represents the league and sort of the podcast that you got players that are playing in this division, and sort of being the stars of the night in front of celebrities like KSI, who's been involved in lots of drama with Saka San and Willstone, which we can talk about if we do have enough time. But I think it's a really good platform for the players, especially in this league. They're not full time clubs, to sort of prove themselves on the online stage and sort of make a platform for themselves. Don't you think?
Yeah, and you could say for the clubs as well, it puts the
Yeah,
club out there a bit, because if people start to form a liking to, J. Emmanuel Thomas and want to see more of him, then they might go watch Whitehall play or keep up to date
yeah,
with Whitehall. So,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think for the most part there's only positives, but quickly on that, Sam Kassane or whatever his name is,
Like I say,
the KSI thing. It's a bit naughty that they should ask for permission. People that haven't watched it, he's a Wildston player, and they haven't asked him. They're a National League side. They haven't asked Wildston whether he can play in this Ballers League, and they hadn't given him permission, because some clubs, like what Worthing did for Razak Coleman de Graaf originally, they said he can't play because he's contracted with them, and they don't want to risk him getting injured, whatever it may be. To completely just ignore them and just go, and pretty much tap the player up, not only to just play for your team in the Ballers League, but he was telling him about Dagenham and Redbridge, wasn't he, and trying to tap him up to sign him for them. So I think that's naughty and a complete disrespect for the club and actually I think for the league really as well, because it just kind of shows you're not really taking it that seriously. You know, if it was a league club, they wouldn't do that. But because it's a non-league player and club, I think he's gone and done that. It's a bit naughty, I think.
No, I completely agree with you. I think the money's got to him really. KSI, social media superstar. He's probably got an offer because the whole reason why it's a lot more controversial is because the whole reason he wasn't able to play last season in the Baller League is because he wasn't allowed by Wildstone. And then with John Terry's 26ers, and then all of a sudden you turn up to season 3, KSI's brought in Sakasan when he's not meant to be playing. So, and then he's offering him to play for Dagenham, which is very dodgy in itself, coming from an owner that he's sort of publicly saying that he wants to buy a player, and I think that's kind of just disrespectful to Wildstone that they're sort of outing them out as a club for one, and also they're sort of just using their player without asking for any permission. If he gets injured, because they've got an FA Trophy semi-final, they could be at Wembley soon. And Saka-san won't be a part of that because he's completely ignored the club, and he's just done what he wants to do without getting any permission. I don't know what you think about it, Simon, but I think it's a bit naughty personally.
It sounds like it doesn't really interest me that much, this aspect of football, but it seems to me like we've got people with money seem to think they can do what they want, and they don't really understand how much people have got invested at this level of football. It's not park football. You've got thousands of people turning up to watch, tens of thousands of people turning up to watch over a course of a season. And to treat people like that, it just sounds to me like they think, well, I've got the money, so I can basically dictate what I want to happen. And I don't think that's on. I really don't.
No. You'd think that he would know now that he's the owner of Dagenham and Redbridge, though, how much goes into it, but there you are.
Who knows? He's only been there for a few weeks, hasn't he? So
yeah. I mean,
he's probably not done lots of due diligence to establish what's going on there. He's probably just bought it on a whim. He's just throwing his money around. It's another example of it.
Yeah. You can only see Saka-san going one way next season, and that's to Dagenham and Redbridge, and playing for primacy at the Baller League with KSI, as well as being with him at Dagenham. So it's an interesting talking point, which was on the BBC because of what KSI's a part of Dagenham now. So brought a bit of light to that league and this league as well, because Saka-san used to play for Hashtag in this in the Ishbian Prem, which is what the whole reason Wildstone signed him. So it's an interesting talking point. It's good that we spoke about it because don't want to see clubs being disrespected like that. So, but anyway, I went to a game in this league on the weekend. Lewes getting their first win since late January against Dulwich Hamlet, which put any thoughts of them getting in the playoff places to bed, really. It's now 14 points, so there's no chance of that happening. Devontae West, unbelievable performance, got a brace in the game. First was a great finish from outside the box, and then second was a great ball in by Bobby Unwin. And then he headed it in at the back post, which he said wasn't usually what he does when putting the ball in the back of the net, headering it in, but he said he would take it at the end of the day. But Lewes looked brilliant defensively, I thought, which was not happening at all in the last couple of games. Dulwich didn't really have a lot of chances, apart from their goal at the back post from a set piece just before half time. Danny Mills got his 8th for the season. And then Jeremy Pumo came back into the side for Lewes. He was at Lewes last season, but went to Cray Valley Paper Mills for the first part of the season, but joined Lewes back up with Craig Nelson, and he looked brilliant. He's just sort of a familiar face, knows how Craig Nelson wants to play, and he looked like a rock back there, which I think was sort of a breath of fresh air for Lewes, really, that they kind of needed in that back line. But it was their first win in 8 games, so can imagine that's a real confidence booster for Lewes. But how important do you reckon this will be for Lewes? Because, I think they'll be away from safety now. It's 10 points, but Dulwich are sort of in a similar situation to QPR in the Championship. Nowhere near the relegation zone, nowhere near the playoffs. So, yeah, I thought it was a good game. What do you think of both of these sides' seasons so far? I mean, both been pretty average, to be fair, haven't they?
Well, what I want to know is what you were doing dancing with the players. That's what I want to know.
I had a few drinking poos. I was dancing with the players. Come the full-time whistle, I was loving it.
Don't know what they got to dance about. They've had a really mediocre season, Lewes. They got nothing to dance about. I suppose staying up, I guess, is one of the reasons. But yeah, maybe they're looking forward to that game against Eastbourne Borough next season.
Yeah,
that'll be a cracker.
I think they've been comfortable for a while though, Lewis. Like I know we said maybe they'll slip into it, but I think we said at the time they probably won't. And I never thought they would be in a relegation fight. So I think this win really means that much for them. But from a managerial point of view, Craig Nelson will be thinking, all right, it's a good result. Needed that to keep his job, but maybe that he's got the team ticking. Against a Dulwich team that, to be honest, I'm surprised they're not higher up. I think, yeah, they're definitely, their season's done as well. It's just nothing now for them. But with that, I say that because of the quality of their fans, really, that I thought that would really have been like a 12th man. But yeah, I mean, Lewis have got the difference with Devontae West because he's a quality player. Steph knows all about him from when he was there as an analyst and as a coach as well. And he said how good Devontae is, and he even said, didn't he, George, to us on the weekend that he's going to be an EFL player soon. And when you've watched him play, you can't help but agree with it because he is quality. But what did you think, George? And also, how was the atmosphere at the game? Because you said over 1,000 people.
Yeah, 1.2k I think it was in the end, and Dulwich brought were there in their numbers. I was with their fans in the second half because my Telmo, who we go to the football with, his brother-in-law is a Dulwich fan, so we went with him, and they created a great atmosphere, brought loads of fans, and the players went over to them. It was nice, and it wasn't toxic. I think the fans are happy with where they are, really. And in terms of Lewes, about the reason I'm saying relegation is because they're saying we are staying up, so we are staying up. So I'm absolutely loving it. But I think you're correct in the way that it's a real confidence booster for Lewes and Craig Nelson, because they haven't been on the greatest run of form, had they? So hopefully they can use this result and have a good finish to the end of the season. But that'll be it for today. Hopefully you have enjoyed this podcast, and we will see you next time for episode 34. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Peace.